down to this southern town last summer to show the folks a brand new way of life. But all you've shown the folks around here is trouble, and you've only added misery to their strife. Your concern is not to help the people, and I'll say again, though it's been often said, your concern is just to bring discomfort, my friend, and your policy is just a little red. Now ain't I right?
Ain't you right? Ain't you right?
It matters not to you how people suffer, and should they, you consider that a gain. You bring a lot of trouble to a town and then you leave. That's part of your communistic game. I detect a little communism. I can see it in the things you do. Communism, socialism, call it what you like. There's very little difference in the two. Now ain't I right?
Ain't you right? Ain't you right?
Your followers sometimes have been a bearded, bathless bunch. There's even been a minister or two, a priest, a nun, a rabbi, and an educated man have listened and been taken in by you. All the country's full of two-faced politicians who encourage you with words that go like this: burn your draft card if you like, it's good to disagree. That's a get-acquainted communistic kiss. Now ain't I right?
Ain't you right? Ain't you right?
One politician said it would be nice to send some blood and help the enemy in Vietnam. That's what he says, here's what I say: let's just keep the blood. Instead, let's send that politician man. Let's rid the country of the politicians who coddle tramps that march out in our street, protesting those who want to fight for freedom, my friend. This kind of leader makes our country weak. Now ain't I right?
Ain't you right? Ain't you right?
Let's look and find the strong and able leaders. It's time we found just how our neighbors stand. If we're to win this war with communism, let's fight it here as well as Vietnam. Let's rise as one and meet our obligations, so communistic boots will never trod across the fields of freedom that were given to us with the blessing of our great almighty God. Across the fields of freedom that were given to us with the blessing of our great almighty God.
Good evening. We're back on Friday, a little bit late in the evening than we would have liked to have been, but you know, at least it's on Friday. Still that, even if with 1 hour left of Friday. So that's with a day. I was wondering to myself if I should make it 23 or 22. However, we're here. We've got some updates to some things. We've got a kind of a lineup. We wanted to talk about medical things, tactical medication, like bandages, Israeli bandages. We have these nasal things. What are those called?
They're called nasopharyngeal airways.
Nasopharyngeal airways.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's be careful not to summon some kind of dark thing with those weird words.
Nasopharyngeal.
Yeah, nasopharyngeal.
You know, I'm
Nose monsters.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I'm a little bit sad, John. We're one chair short this evening.
That's true.
Mr. IT man, he's not here.
I noticed that, you know, and I tried to get a hold of him, but all that I got was a very strange note.
Yeah.
And it was just, I think it was something he tried to leave behind. See, because I think he might not be alive anymore.
Well, you know, I saw a very cryptic thing too, a very cryptic note saying that he wasn't going to be here like for 2 weeks. And,
yeah, for 2 weeks.
And I don't know. I kind of wonder. I'm worried about him, dude. If you're out there listening, don't kill yourself.
Don't kill yourself. And if you do, we'll know that you didn't.
Yeah, exactly. IT guy didn't kill himself.
Yeah, no. Yeah, IT guy didn't kill himself. He's not with us. He's perfectly fine. Don't worry about it. Don't call the police. He's fine. He's just out on vacation, for the family.
Yeah.
It's that time of year. Even that's an announcement before we even get into that. Next Friday, we will not be having a podcast since it's proximity to Thanksgiving. And, War Spirit here has got a full family. And just like me, I've got a full family too. And who knows, we'll probably be sneaking around on Cyber Monday trying to see if we can get us some sick deals that we can crash our boats into a lake with later on.
Yes, sir.
So that'll be good. So before we begin, let's go ahead and pray. Lord, thank you for bringing us here safely tonight and making our travels without incident. I pray for blessings upon me and my partners, among my friends, my family. I pray that you bring bountiful harvest to all those in need this holiday season. I pray for your guidance and wisdom, and that you keep us awake and keep us vigilant. I pray for your endless mercy to just pour out, Lord. Thank you for everything you do and will continue to do. All the glory is yours. Amen.
Amen.
So, where did we want to open up tonight? So we had, I know that you got a little more educated on, the whole Molech and Baal and everything.
A little bit. I watched a few videos on it and just some things that I didn't know had already happened, as far as Pope Francis, the newest pope.
Right, yeah, I sent you that. Pope Francis is going ahead and letting an erection of a statue be built in Rome, which is basically, it looks like every other satanic statue you've seen.
It's Molech.
The go-ahead and the fingers doing the finger things that the Satan statues do. It's kind of like a mockery of the Catholic, paintings of Jesus. It's was it the right hand with two fingers in the air?
Yeah.
I still, there was something about that. I don't remember what it was, but there's something about that, symbolism that even it kind of makes those Catholic paintings look creepy.
Yeah.
Not to bash on Catholics, as I've always said, the separation of churches and everything, it's healthy, because if you all just had one church, you'd be pretty corrupt Babylon, pretty much, and so I think it's healthy. So I don't like to bash on Catholics too much, though I do like to make fun of their statues at times, because that's just not something that I do.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I see Catholics speaking out against abortion far more than my Protestant fellows.
Mm-hmm.
So the Catholics got us beat there at the moment.
Well, and that's something we can. I want to actually go over here a little bit later in the podcast, as far as a documentary that I encourage everybody to watch called "We Still Kill Babies Here."
It's called "Babies Are Still Murdered Here."
Yeah, babies are still murdered here. It's on Amazon right now, on Amazon Prime. You can check it out. It's a great documentary.
I'm impressed that any streaming service actually accepted that they didn't have to
They had to fight for it. There's actually his story on YouTube about it.
Yeah, which is we're getting into the Soviet.
I mean, it's not on
censorships.
You gotta actually type it in and find it on there.
Right.
And it doesn't come up until maybe the last word you're typing in.
Right.
They don't want you to see it.
Yeah, they really don't.
But it's a really good documentary. It's full of a bunch of really good dudes that put it together. Evangelical Christians.
I've been following the guys on, like I said, Facebook for a while. I actually didn't know they were Christian. That is a surprise to me. It's just really good, and that's awesome and everything. And I know I bring it up so very often, the whole abortion thing, because it seems like it's a problem that exists because they don't want the solution.
Right.
It's they want this to happen.
Yeah.
And who are they? Well, the people who are pushing it, and maybe not so much, the pawns.
And that ties back into Baal and Molech.
Right, which it only makes sense, because it's well, why not just, why not, not have sex with strangers, right? That's not something you should aspire to. I mean,
well,
and we're not even taking that right away. We're
Yeah.
just saying it's like if that messes up, you know, because that's what they're saying. You're oppressing people if you take that away from them. It's like no, because they have a choice. They don't have to have sex with strangers.
Well, and here, and looking at it strictly from a worldly point of view, if you want to go do the horizontal mambo with a whole bunch of people, there's this stuff called birth control.
Yeah, put it on.
And it's cheap nowadays.
Right, yeah.
And it's not, you don't even, you know, it's not even just necessarily a rubber. There's other things out there.
Right.
So
there's implants, there's pills, there's...
If you want to be really stupid and like, because there's so many different people out there that are saying, well, I don't want kids. Well, then just go get yourself fixed.
Yeah, go get sterilized. And
Yeah.
there's your solution.
Yeah.
It's like right there. It's like, because that's why I honestly think that abortion being pushed is a man thing. Like they keep saying that like pro-lifers are men that want to oppress women when it's actually the other way around. I sent you the post I made on Facebook because it's very much so that men are pushing pro-choice because they want to do what they do and not suffer the consequence. You know, because a man doesn't have to pay child support if you just kill the damn thing.
Right.
So I think it's a very oppressive thing, and there is documents that very much prove that the first waves of feminists were very much anti-abortion, because it was men trying to push it, like, oh, we don't want kids, you know, let's just kill the kid. And the women would be like, no, we want to have children. This is our calling. And I'm not saying that's all that women were made for. That would be ridiculous, but it is important that, you know, like you said, there's sterilization. So if honestly, if we wanted to stick it to men should see about ending this whole abortion crisis, the murdering of children, and getting sterilized.
Yeah. Well, you hear like AOC and all them talking about, I'm not going to have kids because of global warming. Then just go get yourself sterilized.
Yeah, go.
Nobody
lost.
Talk the talk.
AOC sterilized?
Yeah.
Nobody lost anything there. Nothing of value was lost.
No. There's no gene pool being lost there.
Right.
But
that is kind of rude because it's like, well, what if she did have an abortion? Would we support that? No. That would be very tragic in my opinion.
It would be. Any time that life is lost, it's tragic.
Right, and then it goes into, well, it's just preventing life in the same way. I'm like, well, no, because at least it's taking the, you know, because my folks, they got, after their whatever kid, they got, my dad got his, you know, what's the term?
It's called a vasectomy.
Yeah, he got a vasectomy, and he got cut off from having kiddos, and, you know, to me, I'm like, thumbs up, you know, it's like, that's fine, because you're not pushing the, Catholics will argue that vasectomies are a sin of themselves.
Well, the Catholics, they believe, it says, you know, you're supposed to be fruitful and multiply, and it's like, well, yeah, but you still have a free will, and I mean, again, so
it's about being responsible.
Well, some religions don't. They believe, if you have that many kids, God wanted you to have that many kids. Well, yeah, but what if you have 10 kids and then you're so poor that your kids are in squalor?
Right.
I would rather have an affordable amount and then live a comfortable, good life.
And you know, that's all fine and good. I'm all for that. And you know, if you can have 10 children, please do. You know,
and if you can afford it, you know, that's the thing. You know, I love kids, but me and my wife, we talked about it and we decided on.
And that's where they'll come in with the argument too, saying, "Oh, well, these people can't afford it, so abortion should be fine." And it's like, well, you know, your kid living in squalor or just straight up shooting it, which is what abortion would be.
It comes down to them not wanting to have. Be liable for any responsibility.
Exactly.
And so the responsible thing to do is not to go kill a kid after you've already had the kid. And what I mean already have the kid means the kid's already in her belly.
Right. Have the vasectomy. Fixed.
Go get snipped, or like what we did. So my wife had to have cesarean C-sections for all 3 of our children. She couldn't give naturally.
Right.
So the doctor on our last child just tied her tubes because she was already open.
Right.
So I mean, there's that side for the female side of it too. Now it is more invasive. Unless you're actually having a cesarean, it's easier for the guy to
Right.
get it done.
Feels like you got kicked about 20 times, I reckon.
Yeah, but it's you're in a week, you're
Right.
back to it.
And I mean, look at that. There, you don't have to worry about. That's the responsible thing to do.
Yes.
It's not waiting until that final moment when you have a baby in the gut that oh well, dang, we messed up. Let's punish the child.
Right.
It's like, no, you should have been responsible and not
Right.
allowed that to happen.
Well, and there's even on that documentary, there's this couple. They're a married couple that are coming into the abortion clinic, and there's this one of the main guys that he prays for the women and people that come in there.
Right.
And he's this older gentleman, and he's actually can't even hardly stand up. He's on crutches. And that's what he does, like every day. He goes to this abortion clinic and prays and talks to the girls and stuff and tries
Which
to
is,
get him.
what we really do need.
Well, and that's what I'm going to get to here in just a minute. But there's this one couple, they were married, but they were going in to have an abortion because she said, well, we can't afford another kid. We already have 3 kids. And he's telling us, like, well, there's other options out there.
Right.
And look, okay, so I will admit there's one problem with that.
Right.
So there are other options out there, and adoption is one of them. The problem right now we have in this nation is it is so freaking hard to adopt.
Exactly. It's
Me and my wife
ridiculously
looked
hard.
into it because we have all girls, and we thought, hey, it'd be kind of cool to just adopt a little boy. Let's look into that. Yeah, it's astronomically high.
It's like only
and you
the
have to
super
be
rich,
the upper crust to be able to do it. You have to have a certain home, John.
Right.
Me, I'm a redneck, so I live in a trailer house. Well, that automatic no.
Which is like stupid. Because, I look at this, and the only thing I could think of why it's like this, like, I understand that there is protecting, the children, but at the same time, it's like, foster homes aren't that much better than a trailer house.
No, it's way better, and it's way better than death.
Oh, yeah, way
before
better.
they're even born.
And that's something that drives me so up the wall. It's like, but the child's going to be poor and have to live in a foster home, and it's just... And I'm like, oh, yeah, well, that's just great. Let's just, instead of having it live in a foster home, let's just shoot it in the face. It's like, that's what they're arguing for. I'm like, are you freaking mad? Like, are you insane?
Yeah.
It's a child we're talking about. Like, I don't know. Like, it's just such a moral, clear, it's black and white. It's one of the clear areas in life that should be clear. That you don't do that.
And what I like about that documentary is it gets down to the nitty gritty of... And I know we talked about this earlier, and you actually kind of had a little bit of trouble with it, and in a way I at first did too. But so the main problem we have is people who don't know Christ.
Exactly.
Because if you were a true follower of Christ, you wouldn't be killing kids.
Yeah, truly.
And so we truly need to pray for these women that are coming into these facilities, the men that are bringing them in, and for the people performing the procedures. For years I used to hate these people and go, yeah, they must be like the most evil of evil, and some of them are. Some of them truly are evil.
Are messed
but
up.
some of them are just regular people that don't know no better. And we need to be praying for those people that they see the truth. The young lady that the movie was made about, I forget the name of it, but her name's Abby Johnson. She was a director of a Planned Parenthood, and she was responsible for killing over 20,000 babies. But she was a Catholic.
Right.
But she didn't... That's a difference, though, in calling yourself a Christian and having a relationship with God.
Right.
That relationship with Christ is what's the deciding factor, the difference. And when she had something so horrific happen to her, when she actually took part in an abortion, where she saw that baby being ripped apart, it changed her.
Right.
When she actually saw the suction tube and it kicking away from the suction tube, she realized, oh wow, This thing's alive.
Yeah, this thing is alive.
This isn't a thing. It's a human being.
It's a human being, and it's fighting for life.
Right.
It
It was
wants to
fighting
live.
for its life, and it's a baby. It didn't have a chance.
Right. And it's tragic. And seeing something like that, like IT actually watched the film, and he was like, it's a good message, and he's like, I don't think it hit all the right points that I wanted it to, is what his main complaint with the film.
So what points did he want?
Well, he was kind of going into, he was just saying, like, he probably wants, like, the same points of, like, how could you support this? And I don't know, like, maybe he just kind of didn't read that from it. IT is kind of weird with that. He's kind of like, I don't think I really got that from the film. He's good with it, like, it makes sense, but I can't remember. I'm too tired, but he did have that, like, it was a great film, is what he said, and he said that, like, every Christian should go see it.
Right.
And he's like, everybody who's pro-life should go see it. And he's like, but it does seem like, there's more that could be said. And I think, it's just that one of those things, there's always more that could be said.
Well,
the
the thing with a subject like that, John, is there
Right.
is, but you know whose responsibility for the more to be said?
Us, right?
Exactly.
Right, and that's why I'm here with the podcast, not just for the abortion topic, but everything.
And, unfortunately, we have a brand new facility on 20th Street where a medical facility used to be called Basin Occupational.
Right.
That building there is now Planned Parenthood's new building. And they are, I don't know if they have, but they are ready and able to do abortions in that clinic. Right here in Farmington.
And that's just, that's heartbreaking. It's like, once it was just a place where people could, like, learn about it. It was a Planned Parenthood in the way they want you to believe what Planned Parenthood is.
Mm-hmm.
It's a way to get birth control, which it is. It's a way to get condoms, which it is. But it's like, I heard this. It was the best argument I ever heard. It was like, the Nazis, and it's always, I hate using the Nazis as a term because everyone does it these days, right?
Mm.
But it's like the cheapest argument tactic. But I really like what this person had to say was, the Nazis, making skin lamps out of Jews was only about 3% of what they did.
Right.
Right, and it's like, what was the other, 98%.
Yeah.
And so, or 97%. And it's like, oh, that's just, that's the stuff they did, like industry and all that. But only 3% of that could be accounted for the Holocaust. And so you look at Planned Parenthood, it's like, only about 3% of what they do is kill babies. Everything else they do, it's fine.
And even that number is, they always throw those percentage numbers out, are skewed. And again, going back to Abby Johnson, see, she is one of their worst enemy because she knows the ins and outs of Planned Parenthood because she worked there.
Right.
And they push abortions as their number one thing because the actual director over all of the Planned Parenthoods at the time when she was in put it to her this way, and this was in the movie, but this really happened too. She said, think about a fast food industry. You want, with your burgers, you want to just break even on your burgers. You're not really going to make a profit on your burgers. You know where you make the profit? The fries and the Cokes.
Right.
That's where you make your most profit. And in Planned Parenthood, abortions are our fries and Cokes.
Right. That's where they make the most.
That's where they make the money. Not only in the abortions, but selling baby parts.
Yes, that was a huge scandal back in the day.
Yes.
And even now, like, they're still doing it.
They're still doing it.
Right.
You see, you can't sell baby parts, but you see, John, you can sell what is it? Fetal tissue. That's all it is. It's fetal tissue. still baby parts. And they're still doing it.
Right. And, you know, it's exactly that. I can't... It's like, is it not clear enough that this is a monster beyond control? You know, and I was always... And I told you earlier, I almost want to make a joke. It's like, I wonder if we could get the Marxists to be pro-life just with the simple fact that it's a private company that's advertising to left-wingers that killing babies is okay. And I'm like, well, if it's a private company, they should be against it. And then, you know, you get into an even scarier topic is government-provided abortions. Which is like, yeah, you know, China.
Yes.
Or, you know, you're already there.
Forced government abortions.
And we're already on that track. I mean, you have everyone... It's all connected. This, you know, this Moloch, Baal, demonic Satan thing. Not to go off on a tangent here, but there is something to be said about, the world is overpopulated. Stop having kids. Stop having kids. Like, that's the thing you were hearing. That's been huge in, like, the UK. There's billboards up that are like, wouldn't it be nice if this neighborhood wasn't so crowded? Stop having kids today. Go get fixed, you know? Which I'm like, okay, that's fine to get fixed, but like, that's kind of scary to me.
Well, and the real danger with that is, and it's already happening over in Europe, and it's starting to happen here. So the average American family, American, and I mean, it doesn't matter what color you are, but like Christian American, has, and it's a point, so it's kind of funny, 2.3 kids per household. You know what the average Muslim family has?
Is it like 6?
Yes, 6.7. They are replacing us.
Right, and I mean, a lot of people, they start freaking out, and it's like, because you need to be careful with that. And not so much you, it's just people don't understand. Because a lot of the very far, I would call them left-wing, but they want to call themselves right-wing, you know, white nationalists who are very much about this whole race thing. They'll throw that up in the air and they say they're trying to destroy white people. You know,
see, and that's why I say all Americans.
Exactly.
I mean Islam. I mean the religion.
Well, it's a religious
Islam.
thing. It's a religious thing. It's not white people that are in danger.
No,
it's Christians who
Correct.
are being replaced.
Correct.
Like and it does so happen that white people are predominantly Christian. I mean, that's arguable.
Yeah,
you know, that's every sector of people. You know, the Muslims have been fighting about it for, you know, since the beginning of time. What really is a Muslim anyway?
Yeah.
And so have the Christians at that. What is a real Christian? But it's just predominantly it's white people who are Christian. And I'm not saying that in like a racist thing or anything like that, because, you know, there's plenty of black churches out there too. There's churches of every race. That's what the church is made for.
Sure.
You know, I made a writing called I'm a Human Supremacist. I don't care what race you are, but the moment that you start wanting to push this totally mythical overpopulation thing, then I'm a little skeptical here, because the world has 7 billion people on it right now.
Yeah.
And we have the
and
technology.
We only cover a fraction of the earth.
A fraction of the earth. And that's land, you know. Not to mention the technology we're already working on to build cities out in the ocean.
Correct.
You know, with their own agricultural capabilities, which are immense.
Sure.
So it's like we shouldn't be looking at depopulation. That's a primitive, regressive stupidity. To look at the solution is to depopulate, and we need to start killing babies. We need to start killing off the old people. And then it starts turning into something that resembles the Third Reich. We need to start killing off the disabled. Mm-hmm. We need to start killing off all parasites. And, you know, that's really scary. And I think anybody who has a sane sense of mind would look at that and be like, yeah, we don't need to do that.
Yeah.
That's kind of evil, you know. And whether they realize it or not, that's where this whole, the global warming, we need to depopulate as fast as we can. Look, the freaking ozone disappearing. Let's say that the myth is true of global warming and that it's not just a natural happening, which I do believe it is. It's just another happening. Let's say that this global warming thing has some merit. Let's say that it is true. Even still, less people on the planet will not make the sun bugger off. You know, it's still going to do what it's doing.
Yeah.
You know, you could get rid of... Honestly, you could have one person left on the planet, and I mean, and if it's the trash and the emissions and everything else, it's like, because the way they're preaching it, there's no stopping it. They keep saying that we're already at the breaking point, so I'm like, what? Then why keep pushing for depopulation?
Yeah, if you're saying it's too late,
if you're saying it's too late, then because depopulation, you can't depopulate. Maybe you can change the emissions, but that's not what they're pushing for,
right?
You know,
and I want to bring us back to the answer again. You know, everybody always talks about these different things, and it gets stressful, and you're like, well, what can I do? You know, I'm only one person, and I've heard that as far as like voting too. My vote don't count or whatever. I'm just one person. Well, first of all, if we all vote together, our votes do count.
They do.
And so you need to start voting your principles,
right?
Voting your beliefs, and speaking your beliefs on a local level. Mm-hmm. Everybody out there listening in the Farmington area, if you see the Farmington mayor, let him know what you think about how he voted on
letting that abortion clinic go up.
Letting the abortion clinic go up.
He goes to church.
He goes to the Oasis went. Haven't seen him there since he made the vote.
Yeah. Probably burns when he walks in there.
Yeah, well, he probably knows that he's going to get an earful. Because he had the chance, John, and I know we've mentioned it before, but I'm going to mention it again real quick, to make Farmington a sanctity of life city.
Right, which, I mean, we already had the sanctuary of, like, you know, gun rights and future law.
And Farmington did that as well, not just the county. Farmington voted it in. And here's what's hilarious. With the Second Amendment, he was okay with it, you know? But then, with that one, he's like, well, I don't want to get political.
And that's what I'm like, what the heck is wrong with you, Mayor?
Yeah.
You know? Because if I do meet him, you know, I'm going to be like, you know what, Mayor? You are a coward.
Yeah.
You know, and you allowed this to happen. And I won't do anything to him or anything. I'm not going to punch him. I'm not going to sucker punch him.
No.
Though. You know, it wouldn't be morally wrong to. I'm not going to. But I am going to let him know. I'm like, you know what? I think you're a coward. And if, you know, if I could get another mayor, you know, I think a sack of potatoes would be worth more than you.
Well, and that's when it comes time for re-election, those of you that live in the Farmington city limits, and I don't know who else is going to even be running, but don't vote for Mayor Duckett because he has already proven himself to not be a pro-life candidate.
Yeah.
And that right there should be one of your number one deciding factors.
Right. Any Christian who votes pro-choice is...
People turn politics into something that's way overcomplicated.
Right.
All you got to do is look at several very, very simple things to be able to tell if somebody is a believer and was going to govern correctly.
Right.
Where do they stand on protecting yourself and your family? And where do they stand on life?
Right. Do they see life as important, or do they see life as a utility that can be thrown away?
Everything else is, in my opinion, kind of up for debate.
Right. You know, fair enough.
But those two, you should not, as a Christian, you should not waver on.
Right. I mean, that's just... And that's the one, you know, even Dan Crenshaw tried to push his deal on conservatives where... He wanted the red flag and everything, and he claims to be conservative, and as far as I knew to that point...
But I was a Navy SEAL!
But I was a Navy SEAL. Well, you know, Navy SEAL your mouth shut, you know, because I'm not wavering. You know, and he called the conservative Christians a bunch of babies, and well, you guys just don't want to talk about this. I'm like, yeah, we don't. Yeah. We've already said how we feel on this.
Yeah.
And I don't care if you're a Republican, I don't care if you're Ronald Reagan.
Yeah.
if you come in here and you start saying, well, maybe we could budge a little bit on the Second Amendment. No.
Yeah.
I don't care, like I said, if you're Ronald frickin' Reagan, I'm still not going to budge.
And that whole argument that some people do, because they,
right.
We in the United States do kind of put seals kind of up on a pedestal.
Right.
Here's the thing. Jesse Ventura was a seal, and he's a moron.
Yeah, no kidding.
So, just to be a SEAL, okay, yeah, you got to be pretty smart, and you got to have that I don't give up attitude. Right. It's basically all you got to have.
I'm
not
to say
that
something
impressed.
Really controversial. Because I met veterans, and I think a lot of veterans are heroes. If not, immediately as a blanket.
Yeah.
As a blanket, you can say veterans are heroes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But there are veterans out there who will push, even ones that served against socialist regimes like the Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
I've met old veterans who vote Democrat, pro-choice, pro-socialism, pro-communism,
right.
and they go on rallies against Republicans and they say how the right wing is evil, and I'm like, what? I'm like, because what Republicans, at least on like me to you scale of like conservatives, like I'm not a Republican, you're not a Republican, but we will probably vote Republican because they stand on those two things, which is the Second Amendment and the pro-life debate.
They're the best thing we have going for us right now.
Right, and they are. And even Gary Johnson, I didn't vote for him.
Yeah.
He's from my state, he's a libertarian, but he was kind of wavering on the pro-life thing.
Well, and the whole third party thing, that's for a topic we could do a whole podcast on that.
Pointless. I mean, don't do
that.
But
you're not ever going to win.
Right.
I liked, I can't remember his first name, but I liked Castle. And he was part of the, he went under, like, the whole libertarian ticket.
Right.
But he wasn't going to win.
Right.
So, in the primary, I didn't vote for him.
Right.
For president. I voted for Donald Trump.
Right. And Donald Trump caught my attention really quick, and he had a really good speech, and that is why I voted for him. And I know politicians' promises are about as worth as much as a gallon of rotten milk at that rate. It's not worth very much. But he said, I'm going to defend the churches in this country, is what he said. And that enough for me was like, okay. And he kept saying pro-life stuff. And he kept saying he was going to get rid of abortion. And and that vote for me, when I voted for that, was kind of like this is what I'm voting for. Right. And this is my voice. I didn't honestly think he was going to win. I don't think anybody did. I don't think anybody in
I was very surprised.
Yeah, everyone was like, Hillary's got this rigged.
I went to bed that night thinking, oh crap, that witch is going to be our president. And then I woke up the next morning and they're like, no, Donald Trump won. I'm like, what? Shut up.
Yeah. You're like, you're all pinching yourself. You're like, this is a fever dream,
But even then, okay, so I was still concerned because I honestly did not believe that he was a conservative.
Right, because
still,
back in the day, he was doing...
Well, he was a registered Democrat.
Yeah. Before
he ran for president.
Right.
And so, and he's done some shady crap.
Yeah.
Let's face it.
Yeah.
He's done some shady stuff.
Oh, yeah.
The way he's got his Trump towers and stuff built, I mean, he did some underhanded stuff in New York to get all that done. I mean, stuff that if I was him, I wouldn't be proud of.
Yeah, no.
He talked about grabbing women by the proverbial and, their genitalia.
Yeah. And he, there's a lot of stuff he did.
Yeah. But with all that said, I think he's been a pretty good president.
I mean, he's done good. He hasn't, like, everything that he said, granted, he's enforced more Second Amendment violations than Obama did.
He has. He has.
And that is grounds where I've bounced back and forth on the year because, there was a point where I was like, no, I'm not voting for him again. But at the same time, I'm looking at the options and I'm like, gosh, dang it, because there's nobody else there.
Yeah.
And it's like, and that's where a lot of people chime in and say, well, just don't vote. I'm like, well, a non-vote could very well be a vote for the enemy.
Right, exactly.
And I mean, you're looking at it right now. Trump is the enemy of an enemy. You know, if another reason I voted for him was just that satisfying noise I knew I would hear of that blue-haired weird thing screaming "No!" in the street.
Mm-hmm.
That was like my dream fulfilled. I was like, these people support the death of children.
Yeah.
And they're screaming at the top of their lungs
in
anger.
That is the one thing
Right.
that gave me comfort about him, as far as like, okay, maybe he is going to be okay. Because when the establishment, the establishment left, still hate him this much, that must means he's doing something right.
Right. Which is weird, you know, because they really do hate this guy.
They truly despise him.
And, I mean, even though, like I said, he's done Second Amendment violations, and there's some things that might be left of center that he's done, and they still are like, this guy is a Nazi. He's literally Hitler.
So that shows me, because also the establishment, not just your blue haired out in the street, but the actual this establishment, the people that was more buddies than just knowing him, of Jeffrey Epstein, hate him.
Right, and I mean, you're looking at this. You know, this Jeffrey Epstein has been going on since even the Bush era.
Oh, yeah. Well,
even
yeah.
before.
It has been going on since the Clinton administration, back in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Zorro Ranch, a lot of the stuff with Bill Richardson happened in the early 90s.
And so my question...
95, 96.
Right. So here's the interesting thing. It's like, it's very plausible, you know, all these presidents that have come and gone... Since this has all really come and been going on with the recruiting from Ghislaine and everything else, all the way down to the beginning of Epstein's acting on his perversions, and everyone acquainted with him who acted on that same perversion, all these presidents, there's been, what, 5 since the 90s? 4? 3? It was 3 since the 90s.
3.
Yeah, sorry. They've all kind of gotten 8 years. So, yeah, we've had 3 presidents since then. I think all 3 of those presidents had a chance to let this out in the open. And now we have someone who really did. And he kept alluding to this whole draining of the swamp. Maybe it's his fault. He has something to do with shoving this out in the open.
Sure.
And it's very possible. And I'm looking at that and I'm like, you know, Trump, you're in some dangerous water if you keep up with that. And that's why I think they hate him so much. Because, you know, all these, like, elites, all the way down to, like, you know, news people and CNN that hate him, there's a lot of these, even just the anchors were friends with, like, Epstein and stuff, which is like, what? And then, you know, you see all this propaganda being pushed to try and shut the Trumpers up, you know, because the Trumpers, they're on our trail now. They're sharing Epstein didn't kill himself meme. Oh no, now normal day Democrats are sharing Epstein didn't kill himself memes. Oh no, and it's all falling apart. This viral. Huge circle is now, the whole world knows.
Yeah.
People in England are joking about it. Hell, we had, that's news, by the way, Prince Andrew stepped down because in the midst of this huge controversy, and everyone knows he was playing buddy-buddy with Epstein back at Zorro Ranch here in New Mexico,
and
our local broadcasting.
Had sex with one of the underage girls, that little blonde girl that I told you about.
Right, and, you know, there it is. You know, there's your testimony. Even before it was big, she was trying to talk about it. You know, and, you know, that's not just an attention-seeking deal, because that's a really hard thing to talk about.
She was 16 years old at the time.
I've talked to many women around here. There is a epidemic of women being abused as children around here. And it is the hardest thing for them to talk about. It's not just always an attention-seeking deal, as a lot of men dismiss it as. And I'm not white knighting here, okay? Freaking, I've got a girl. I'm not trying to impress anybody. My whole point is, though, it's like, this is a very real thing. And I think accusations should be taken seriously. Of course, investigate, because there are some of these feminists that would love to falsely accuse people and bring down their house based on a political gain. But this woman has no political gain from this. Mm-hmm. It's not about, you know, effing the Clintons or anything like that. It's like, this guy raped me. at a very young age.
Mm-hmm.
And she's coming out and talking about it. She's a very brave woman. And I'm strongly inclined to believe her because you have this Epstein thing. It's proven.
Yep.
And everyone who has morality hates Epstein.
Yep.
And is glad he's dead, but is also very sad that he's dead because he didn't spill the beans.
Right.
He didn't get a chance to. That's why he's dead. And that's why these memes are going viral. It's because everyone, left, right, if they have a conscience, they're looking at this and saying, well, this is the most inexcusable thing on the planet.
Well, and another thing that makes me really, really believe the things that she said is not even so much, okay, so Epstein, yeah, that might be like, if it wasn't for this, you might be like, well, maybe she's making it up. But why in the world would somebody, if it was untrue, bring up Bill Richardson into
Right.
it? Nobody knows Bill Richardson outside of New Mexico.
Right.
If you don't live in New Mexico, you don't know who Bill Richardson is.
Right.
So why would you say, yeah, Bill Richardson was there, and yeah, Jeffrey made me give him a hand job?
Right.
No, it's just
You don't just pull
Yeah.
this out your ass. You
No.
know, and everything like that
that's
been talking
very
about.
specific. You're like,
You know,
whoa, wait a minute.
she nailed, everything we were talking about before we watched that video
Yeah,
is basically what she said. And I was like, well, good. We have a third person who can back up our claims, because, politics in these podcasts, it really is kind of like we're the jury here and we're looking at these people. It's like, yeah, you look pretty freaking guilty right now.
yeah.
And Prince Andrew stepping down, it's like, I still like, that's just a sign
That's
right
proof
there.
right there.
That's
It's
proof.
like, if you don't have nothing to hide, you're not going to step down.
Yeah, you're not going to step down over those silly comments being made about you. No,
Yeah.
obviously they're not silly anymore.
Yeah.
This is a very real threat to your reputation.
Exactly.
And-
And Buckingham Palace, I guarantee you, was the ones that told him, you need to get out of the public limelight.
Right.
You need to lay low for a while because you screwed up, boy.
Right. They're like, it's not stopping.
Yeah.
It's a snowball effect,
Yeah.
because it all started one day. This little snowball started rolling down this mountain, and now it's a gigantic freaking crater waiting to happen. And they're all in it, and they're all rolling uncontrollably.
Speaking of snowballs, also the guards now. See, they're looking for somebody to blame for all this,
yes.
okay?
Yeah.
So the guards have been indicted under fraud because they were taking naps, they were going to sleep when they
Right.
should have been checking on Epstein. Now, rather they were in on this murder or not, they're being charged with not doing their duties. Is
Right.
basically what they're being charged for, and fraud, saying because they were writing down, "Hey, I checked on him at this time." Well, they never did actually go in there.
Right.
The cameras show that.
Right.
So the times that they show that they checked on him don't jive with the cameras.
Right.
Of course, now we have all that, the camera
Yeah.
like messed up. Didn't see part of it. That maybe
Right.
they did go in there then. And
Kind of crack his neck.
Yeah.
Which,
yeah.
I mean, maybe the guards were the ones who killed him.
I tend to think that maybe they were because
Right.
so if you're an elite, if you're a high up, okay,
Right.
how much easier than to pay off a guard?
Right.
A city official and all this. That's the reason why, unfortunately, for right, wrong, or indifferent, why a lot of times police officers become
Right.
corrupt as far as that, because they don't make a whole lot.
Right.
So you get promised drug money or all this
Right.
different stuff. Well, and I'm not saying everybody because there's some really good
Right.
cops out there that are honest.
Oh, yeah.
But the corrupt ones think, well, I'll go ahead and take the extra money if you're going to give it to me.
And I mean, and you wouldn't feel, you wouldn't really argue. It's like, oh yeah, I'd be happy to kill this child diddler. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But at the
exactly.
same
So these
time,
guards, they'll even
yeah.
say that. They might even tell them that. You want a chance to kill this pedophile?
All right. They might have sold him that. Like,
yeah.
you want a chance to kill
Yeah.
this?
We'll turn our backs and make sure the cameras are off.
Right.
And by the way, there's a offshore account that's going to have a couple $100,000 in there for you when you
Right.
retire. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
I mean, knowing these guys, it could be in the millions.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
No, like,
easily.
easy. And this is the super rich elite we're talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mean that in like a hating the rich way. That's a Marxist thing.
No, yeah.
But these people are like, our rich people that we know, that they aren't affiliated with these people.
Yeah,
these
it's
people
the
are
higher level.
like, these are the people that make the money.
Right.
These are the people that know what the money is and what all the little triangles in it.
Well,
mean.
and I never thought of it at that scale until I was listening to Joe Rogan's podcast a couple weeks ago, and Joe actually brought up a really interesting comment, and I really wish I could pick Joe's brain on this because he just kind of went over it and they laughed, they went on. But I would like to talk to Joe more about this because he mentioned, he's like, look, back in the early 90s, and see, I was alive then. I was already following politics when I was a teenager in the early 90s. The Clintons and all these other people, and I'm sorry, guys, I'm going to use a profane word, but I'm going to use it because it needs to be said. I'm sorry. But Joe put it, they like to fuck.
Yeah, they
okay?
really do.
That was Clinton. Okay?
Yeah. That's all he did.
Yeah, that's all Slick Willie, that's all he wanted to do.
Right.
If it had breasts and vajayjay, he wanted to go after it.
He was in it.
Yeah. So, but they figured out through the advent of this new thing called the internet, well, they couldn't just do what they was doing anymore.
Right.
Because Clinton had already gotten in trouble with Monica.
Mm-hmm.
And so they all got together. This is Joe's speculation. They all got together and they said, hey there, hey John. I'm just, John's not really, but if Clinton was talking to him, if he was one of his cronies, hey John, we gotta figure out how we can keep doing this and getting these women.
Right.
we gotta be able to get our happy endings and all that stuff. You know what I mean,
Right.
man? So what they did is they hired Epstein to take care of an island that they paid for.
Right.
To where they could have these girls flown in
Yeah.
and do whatever they wanted with them.
And it's like, well, so
not have any repercussion.
Right, so like Epstein is, he's guilty as all shit, don't get me wrong, but he is the scapegoat. He is he's responsible for it. He's dead now, don't worry about it. Shut up, and that's why people are like, we're done with this. We're done being lied to. This is it. You guys are done. And the world is watching you now. You can have, because they're not on the news. I noticed that nobody's talking about it.
No.
We've had these shootings come up. We talked about this, that it was going to happen. And 2 in 1 weekend.
Yep, 2 in 1 weekend. And, you see, that's not enough, John. That's not enough to try to, because we're still talking about it. So now, just this morning, I heard more quote-unquote news that came out of the Santa Clarita, the shooting in California.
Okay.
I'm sure you guys out there in the radio world and have heard the term quote-unquote ghost gun. And let me explain what they call a ghost gun, and that's a media term. It's so funny. A ghost gun is any receiver on a firearm that doesn't have serial numbers, and you think, wait a minute, that's illegal. Well, it's illegal to file a serial number off that's already been put on there, but you can build a firearm yourself. If you build the receiver, then you don't have to have a serial number on it. Right. That's a quote-unquote ghost gun. And there are websites out there that sell what are called 80% lowers. 80% of the BATF says that as long as only 80% of that lower, of that receiver is done by somebody else, then you can take that 80% receiver, finish it by milling out different things and drilling the holes depending on what type of receiver it is, and finish that receiver, and you can legally build your own gun,
right,
with no numbers,
right,
and that's the quote unquote ghost gun.
Scary, those ghosts, and they got 30 clips and 30 bullet magazine clips that shoot all the rounds in half a second.
Now, here's the issue with this that I see. I still call BS on this, and I think they're making this up just like they made stuff up with the Vegas shooting. I think they're going after 80% lowers because your average guy that buys 80% lowers and builds them
Right.
is a law-abiding citizen, and he's smarter than the average bear. Okay,
Right.
because
Yeah.
you got to know how to run milling machines. You got to know how to run. Even you can do it out of hand tools, but you got to know what you're doing.
Right.
Okay, so these are actual firearms enthusiasts that are doing these things.
Well,
Okay,
has there been any? Sorry.
it's not Biggie Smalls, brother, down in the hood doing these. You know, it's not a
Right.
drug dealer doing these.
Right.
It's somebody who has information on how to do them. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so I call BS. They are trying to get rid of these lowers out of
Right.
our hands.
Well, it's just another thing trying to get law-abiding citizens to not have guns.
It's the same when they went after the bump stocks, and that's why I brought up
Right.
the Vegas shooting. Okay,
Give them an
the Vegas shooting was the first, like the tip of the iceberg to like, well, we got to figure out how to do this. So they took away the bump stocks. Okay, so now they're saying, oh, it's this ghost gun, and they said it was a 45 ACP ghost gun. Now they're going to go after the quote-unquote ghost guns.
Right. I mean, even so, they don't know. Like, there's no recorded freaking evidence of what the hell the Vegas shooter was using. Even still, like this bump stock thing was just.
There's still no proof.
This bump stock was out of the ass. Like it was just like, well, maybe it was that.
And to this day, you will never make me believe that was the rate of the fire that was going on and the constant fire.
It wasn't.
Yeah.
It was-
Either he was the most talented bump stock shooter I have ever seen,
Right.
or it was BS.
All right. Which, I mean, with the cameras and everything in the casino, all of it just points to BS. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not even afraid to say that. Like, it's all the way down to like the Kennedy thing, just being one shooter.
Yeah.
It's BS.
Yeah,
you know?
it's lies.
Right.
And it was their plan. Now they're planning on getting rid of the 80 lowers because
Right.
they know that men like me and others that know how to take these things and complete them, we're a threat.
Right.
And so if they can take those out of our hands,
Right.
in their minds, they think, oh, well, then he won't have access to that.
Just still ridiculous. Like,
Well, here's the thing, you know. They'll say, "Oh, we're gonna make those illegal." Y'all are playing with fire because gun owners in this nation are going to reach a point. You keep taking stuff away from us, one thing after the other. Pretty soon, we're gonna say screw it, and we're not gonna care.
right.
And when that happens, and I'm not saying I would ever do that, but there's some people out there that are going to make really illegal stuff.
Right. And you're going to start seeing more of it.
You're going to start seeing
It's the
more of it.
prohibition
Yes.
all over
Yes.
again.
Yeah. I mean, exactly. The prohibition. You know, you dried up all these counties and stuff, and then people started running this stuff. So now, you know, because it is already illegal, I can't take an 80 lower,
Right.
build it, and then sell it to you. That's illegal. I can't complete it. If I want to complete it and sell it to you, then I have to send it to the BATF and have it serialized.
Okay.
Then,
You can
and only then, and I have to pay a special license because I become a firearms manufacturer. Okay?
Damn.
Yeah. So it's all, you don't want to do that. I mean, it's
Right.
almost impossible, and the fees are enormous. Okay.
Right.
So it's already illegal. So if somebody actually did sell this kid a quote-unquote ghost gun, again, it was already illegal to do that.
Right. And even then, do we know it was
So-
a ghost gun? Do we know it
We
was
don't know
a-
for sure. They just
Again-
that's just their word.
Again, with the 80, you know, the whole, like you're saying, the whole 80%, and, like, that's where I was about to say when I was about to cut you off earlier, like, has it been proven that in any of these shootings that it was an unserialized firearm?
That's their claims this morning. The sheriff's department in Santa Clarita said that it was a ghost gun, a 45 caliber ghost gun. And you know, I thought at first, I'm like, oh, bullcorn,
It had to be
because
filed off type, right? Not
no, a ghost gun is
is
not.
as you said, it was built without it.
Yes,
Right.
yes, that's
The
it's,
term.
Yeah, that's the term. If it was just a firearm with the serial numbers filed off, then they would have
That's the term that they would have used.
Okay.
But the ghost gun term is the ones that have been completed from an 80 lower.
Well, that's oddly interesting too. It's like because there's been no shooting with a confirmed ghost gun until now.
Yeah.
So it's like they're really pushing it, are they? You
Yeah.
know, they're now it's not. It can't just be like a gun. Now they really, really want to push this, and I wonder just how much these ATF bastards know about all this.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it's like, and I'm not saying the
see that's
ATF
the ATF.
Right.
They hate the fact that these companies are making these 80% lowers. They have gone after these companies right and left. They keep changing the rules because at first it was kind of funny when they first made some of the AR lowers. What these companies were doing is they would actually impregnate the aluminum with a different color.
Right.
To where you could keep machining out the aluminum until you changed colors. And you didn't even have to have any kind of specs because then you could make it perfect. Okay?
Right.
And I don't know how the manufacturer did that, but they was able to do that with the billet. Okay? So you keep going down red, and then it goes to just aluminum. Oh, stop. Well, the ATF got wise on that. They're doing that? You can't do that. And so then they changed the rules. And so now it is harder because they don't have that. But now you got jigs. So every time the ATF changed the rules, these 80% lower manufacturers just kind of give them the middle finger and say F you, and they figure out another way for the public to be able to do it that's not easy, but easier.
Right. I mean,
you still have to know what you're doing.
I mean, the ATF, it's just like tobacco, everything else. It's, okay, well, here's a new regulation. Well, we're just going to go around that. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, well, since you went around that, how about this? Well, we're just going to go around that. Mm-hmm. It's an unstoppable object against a special ed kid at that point. Because it's like, the ATF, it's like, stop! And we're like, no. Like, everyone's like, no, we're not going to. Yeah. It's like you said, like I said, prohibition. Mm-hmm. Stop drinking the alcohol. Stop selling it. Stop making it. Well, there's a bathtub full of booze around the corner. I'll see you guys later.
Yeah.
What, you can't do that. Oh, well, except we can.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, well, then what's the point anyways? Yeah. And I think that's really healthy for these manufacturers to keep giving them the middle finger, because it's like, no, we're not stopping. It's like, this is our right. And no matter how many ways, because that's what the ATF are doing. They're trying to play stupid. We know they're trying to take our Second Amendment away, so they keep trying to do what we're doing to them.
Sure.
They keep trying to loophole it. They keep trying to loophole the Second Amendment, where it's like, well, you can have your gun, but we're going to take away the ability to have a lower receiver.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Because it'll be to the point where it's like, well, we won't ban the gun, but we'll ban everything that makes it work.
Yeah.
We'll ban the firing pin. We'll ban the trigger. We'll ban the hammer. Because that's where they're getting to at this point, where it's like, well, we won't ban guns, so you still have the right to own guns. We'll just ban the ability for them to work for you.
Well, and they've already done that, and that was their first. That was their first. The bump stock was the first step, because now it's already, the precedence has already been set that they can ban features.
Right.
And like you said, so if a feature can be banned, we'll be like, well, we'll just ban the hammer. That's what strikes the firing pin. So if you don't have a hammer, you can't make your gun go boom.
Mm-hmm. And that's where they're getting to. And it's like, well, that's just a violation of the Second Amendment. And I don't care. Oh, well, you still have a gun. No. I have a metal rod.
Yeah, I have a really expensive club now.
I have a very expensive bullet storage.
Yeah. Well, and that's another thing. You bring up the bullets. See, they've done that in California, and it's getting worse and worse. Mm-hmm. They're trying to make it harder and harder to buy ammunition. Mm-hmm. Because then they can say, well, you can have whatever you want. I mean, you can have an M249 saw, but if you don't have any bullets for it, it doesn't matter what it is.
It's just a play toy at that point.
Yeah.
It's a little prop.
Yeah.
Like I said, and that's exactly what they're doing, and they know they're doing it. We know they're doing it. Everyone with a mind is like, like, you guys are just BSing. You guys are trying to take this away from us any way you can.
Right.
And you're trying to make, like, if enough stupid people are like, well, they just banned the hammer, like we're saying, they just banned the hammer, they didn't ban guns, it's fine. Mm-hmm. Until, you realize, they still got hammers on their crap, and they're coming for you. And let's say it's a tyrannical situation, a tyrannical government has come, and only the tyrants have hammers, and you're just sitting there making mouth noises and pointing at them. Yeah. That's what they're trying to make. And, it's something that should be stood up against. And like we're saying, we're law-abiding citizens, and I hope to be for the rest of my life. Mm-hmm. I don't want to break the law. I have anxiety issues. Being an outlaw on the run would scare the hell out of me. Mm-hmm. I don't want to do that. Hell, and that's the thing. It's like, but we were given a right. Something about this whole protection of property, the pursuit of happiness. Guns are a huge part of that. Mm-hmm. And using it against a man, we would hope to never do. Yeah. Against someone who breaks in our house, we hope that never happens. Against an active shooter, we don't want that to happen. We don't want these things to happen. Right. That's why we want to carry a gun. It's because, well, the consequences of not having that are uglier than the consequences of having it. A lot of people are like, well, if it's like this strange concept too. It's a very asinine belief. Just like how they tried to get rid of meth, how they've tried to get rid of cocaine, weed, beer, everything they've tried to get rid of, there's always still been there. Sometimes, especially with the drug war, the more illegal it is, the more common it becomes, which is just how it works. And you're going to see the very same problem coming up with firearms. Yeah. And the problem is, the more illegal you make firearms, the more lethal the firearms become. Right. The more that people, exactly as you said, don't care. Right. The less people are going to care.
Especially in this country. Like, take a country that's never had a gun culture. Like, take Hong Kong right now. What's going on with Hong Kong? Those kids don't know how to make guns. Right. Because they don't know anybody. They don't grow up with it, all this stuff. But in the United States, we've had a gun culture for so long. It would take 3 or 4 probably generations.
Right. To fully
erase it. And even then, there's so many guns in this nation. Right. It's not like, so Hong Kong, there wasn't a whole lot of guns to begin with, even because it was a British Empire. Well, the Brits were pretty restrictive anyways. So it's really hard for them to have anything.
It's been generations and generations.
It's been generations upon generations that have been. But with us, it's like, no.
Ever since our founding, we've had guns. Yeah. And we've learned how to make them. We've learned how to make better ones.
And see, if you take away the 80 lowers, all that's going to happen is you're going to open up the ability to have a black market. And everybody and their mother that has the access to a milling machine can make lots of money if they want to.
Exactly. That's why a lot of weed dealers are hoping that it stays illegal. Right. Because it's worth more money.
Yeah, they don't want it to be illegal. Yeah, they don't want it to be legal.
Dealers, let's be honest, the CIA is the biggest cocaine dealer there is. That's just a fact. Right. But, they are hoping it stays legal because the money for illegal contraband is worth...
Well, look at the money that the federal prison system makes. I was doing some research on that. Have you heard of the guy that used to be on YouTube called FPS Russia? Yes. Okay, do you know why he quit making videos?
There was a lot of rumors that he got murdered back in the day.
No. Yeah. So what ended up happening is his friend that had access to all these Class 3 firearms, machine guns and stuff. He's the one that it's kind of like shady of like what happened to him. Nobody quite knows, but he got shot and he died. Right. After that, the ATF raided FPS Russia's house because they stopped him, and I guess they found a little bag of weed on him. Well, he owned 3 Class 3 firearms himself.
Right.
Well, since he owned 3 Class 3 firearms, and folks, that's why I will never own a machine gun, no matter how rich I am, because you are put under a microscope.
Yeah.
And the ATF hates you, and they will find you. So, for one little bag of weed, he got 18 months in prison.
I explained it.
And so his channel got shut down. He spent this time in prison. When he got out, well, you can't have guns. They confiscated $400,000 worth of guns from him.
That's freaking nuts.
Yeah, they're gone forever.
Right. Probably crushed.
They got destroyed.
It's
Yeah.
sad. That's
Yeah.
very tragic.
So, and there's a whole YouTube deal about him. And some of his stories about prison's freaking hilarious.
I bet it would
But
be.
he explained the prison system, and something I didn't know. The federal penitentiaries, they actually make $96 a day off of you.
Gee, off of
Off of you.
prisoners.
Yeah, say Jonathan Evigilans gets locked up for
Right.
some bogus bullcrap.
Right.
They will make-
talk about ghost.
They will
goods.
make almost $100 a day off of you. It's a federal subsidy.
Right, and they got
That
and
prison
America
makes that
does
federal
have
subsidy.
The highest
Yeah.
prison
And
population.
And you have to pay for everything in there except for very, 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 very basic amenities. Like your basic food every day. Basic. But if you want anything above that, you want a bag of chips, anything, you have to pay through what's called your commissary fund. And so people on the outside can get money either from your bank account or whatever, maybe it's mom and dad helping you or whatever. They're allowed to put a certain amount of money into your commissary fund once a month.
Okay.
And you can buy stuff in their little store. You can buy snacks and chips and different stuff.
Like magazines.
Magazines, a better bath towel because they give you he said they give you like a really crappy towel.
Right.
And so you can buy stuff like that, better shampoo.
Right.
You can buy stuff like that with your commissary fund.
Okay.
But, see, all that money is going back to them. So they're making money, $100 a day off of you, and they're making money through the commissary fund.
Right. That's nuts.
Yeah.
That
So
very
it is a money-making industry. And that's the reason why it behooves them to never legalize a lot of this stuff.
Right.
Because he got 18 months for a little bag of weed. A little bag of weed.
That's tyrannical.
And the reason they went after him is they did not like him posting videos showing the American people what they were missing out on machine guns and how fun they could be, not in an evil way, and showing that machine guns are not evil.
Right.
That's the reason why the BATF went after him.
Right.
By the way, homeboy isn't even Russian.
Yeah.
He's from Georgia.
Right. I think everybody could kind of guess that, but it's tragic, because everyone was like, what happened to FPS Russia? And it is important. I don't know. Let's see. We've been going for about an hour and 12 minutes. So, was there much more we wanted to cover?
Well, I did want to cover real quick, if it's okay with you, some medical stuff.
Yeah, how about we take an intermission?
Sure.
Go ahead and get some refreshments like water, or go to the restroom, that sort of thing.
See you in 5.
Yeah, see you in 5. trying to find some friggin' royalty-free music, and all that's on here is friggin' weed crap. I'm sorry about that, fellas. Like we said, 5 minutes, guys. And we're back. Aquafina versus Arrowhead.
Man, that's a...
They both taste like water. You don't really have a preference?
Not really.
I got somebody who will cut people's heads off. Not literally, but he gets so mad about that stuff. Water.
Like, what does he...
He despises Arrowhead.
Is this IT, man?
No, this is my native buddy.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know why, but he's like, Arrowhead tastes like zombie piss.
Yeah, I'm not really water sensitive. To me, water's water.
Yeah, and the same thing. On a hot day, water is water, man.
Yeah.
And on some days, water's just going to taste like ass. Anyways, speaking of consumables and everything else, you wanted to get into medical stuff, I reckon?
Yes. So, this is kind of our segment that we've been doing. I really don't have a really name for it. We need to come up with a cool name for eventually.
What,
but,
medical stuff?
Well, just of preparation stuff.
Oh, okay.
This is our segment when we talk about stuff for, surviving the zombie apocalypse.
Right.
Whatever. Rather that be an EMP, economic collapse, whatever, what have you. Say
a hurricane.
The end of the world as we know it has happened.
Right.
And that could be, just locally. It could be very centralized.
A hurricane, a flood, an earthquake, a tornado.
A shooting.
Oh, see, there you go.
And that's what we're getting into today is medical supplies. Now it's really important, those of you sheepdog dogs out there, to carry every day. If you own a firearm and you've had training and you have gotten your concealed carry permit, you should carry every day. But with that, I think a lot of guys, they don't think about this one very important thing. Yeah, I can shoot the bad guys, but how do I help the good guys that have already been shot? And so that's what we're going to get into today, and we're going to get into several different things. And I know I've talked about Israeli bandages here on the podcast before, but I'm a huge fan of Israeli bandages. Look them up. There's instructional videos on YouTube on how to make them. They're basically a compression bandage that has a very absorbent pad, and they can help stop a gunshot wound bleed really well. And the more times you wrap it, there's a plastic piece that actually puts a pressure on that wound to help it stop. And so those are really good bandages. With that, and I don't have it with me. Of course, you guys can't see that anyways. But tourniquets are really important. Now, there's been lots of over the years. There's been lots of different controversies over tourniquets. It seems like
Can't I just use my belt, War Spirit?
Yes, John, you can, but it's not going to be near as effective. And I've heard a lot of old timers say that. I got my belt.
See, yeah, that's why
Yeah.
I brought the question up
Yeah.
because I think it is important. If you get messed up,
Yeah.
if you get freaking shot, do you honestly want to wrap a belt around your arm or something that might actually be proven to help?
Well, and here's the thing, John. Say you do have a belt that maybe is pretty decent. It's a thin leather belt that's maybe about 1.5 to 2 inches wide, which would make a decent tourniquet. If you are a sheepdog, John, what is your belt doing for you?
It's holding up my pants.
It's holding your gun, John.
Right, yeah, that too.
So, why would I want to pull my belt off and have my freaking gun fall on the ground rather than just reach for a tourniquet if I get shot?
Right.
Or, say, John, you're my battle buddy and you get shot. Again, why would I want my gun to no longer have a place for it to be holstered?
Right.
Just to help you. And I know, don't get me wrong, if that's all I had, that's what I would do. But there are better options out there. One of the best options, in my opinion, is called the CAT tourniquet. That's C-A-T.
I've actually heard a lot about that. There was someone trying to battle with the CAT tourniquet recently. Did you hear about that?
No.
It was a different supplier, and they said their tourniquet was just as good, but it was very different. And it actually resulted in a lawsuit because someone actually did try to use it.
So there are two different main tourniquets out there. There's the CAT and the RAT. Okay?
Yeah, right, and there's an argument with that too.
Yes. And if you'll pull up and put on the picture of the CAT tourniquet.
Oh, shit.
Oh
wait, we already got it.
I have it, yes.
Yeah, let's add that.
The CAT tourniquet, guys, as he brings it up, I'll just kind of explain a little bit. Basically, it's really simple. It's a bungee cord with this steel
On
almost
the screen, folks.
It almost looks like a Batman symbol.
That's a rat's tourniquet.
That's the rat. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's the one I wanted first. Yeah, I'm sorry, rat. Did I say cat?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, yeah, the rat's tourniquet. That's the good one. Okay, it's just this thin bungee, and it's got this steel deal at the end. It's really simple to use. It comes like in a loop, like a lariat loop. You put that part around you, and you start wrapping it. And the more times you wrap it and pull on it, the tighter you can get it. And that steel thing at the end is to pull on it in and then tuck it under, and it keeps it done. Now, the windmill style that you see a lot of, like your tactical guys carrying in their kits, those are CAT tourniquets. Sorry, I think I got those mixed up to begin with, but you guys will see the difference.
Yeah, I'll pull it up and I'll throw it on there.
Sorry, I should have saved that one. I apologize.
No, that's okay. I'm working on it. So CAT tourniquet.
So CAT tourniquet, guys, as he brings that up, I'll explain it. You pull it in, you cinch it, and there's this plastic rod called the windmill, and you start turning it, and that tightens the tourniquet. Now, there's two problems with this type. One, it's actually really hard, if anybody's ever tried it, it is, to put on like with one hand.
Right.
And two...
Image on screen now.
There you go. And two, it only reaches a certain size down. So it'll only fit like an average human's arm. The cool thing about the rat tourniquet is it's even useful for little kids, pets. If you have the family dog and he gets somebody shoots the poor guy and he's got like a hurt leg, you can put it on your family dog. And so there's so many more uses. And the rat tourniquet is a lot smaller and it's lighter. Right. And for those of you out there who have bug out kits, that's huge. And what a lot of guys I see doing is how they carry the rat tourniquet is they'll actually thread it through their belt loops, like on top of their belt.
Right.
And so then it's with you all the time. And then all you got to do is pull that steel piece off, and unthread it like a belt, and it's ready.
And
which is pretty good.
yeah, and so that one's way good. And see, another thing about the cat tourniquet that's not good is it's bulky. You kind of have a hard time finding a place to put it. Even in big cargo pants, like I use a lot of times, I never carried one because they're so big and bulky and they get in the way.
Right.
So I'm a big fan of the rat. Oh, and also the rat tourniquet is cheaper than the cat.
Okay.
The rat is about $20 on Amazon right now. I looked it up. And so it's a really good deal. Oh, and the rat tourniquet is all made in the USA. So you're supporting a United States company. Man, we need to start doing some Amazon links.
Right. Putting
Yeah.
in like the description and stuff.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty neat.
Yeah. But guys, get out there, buy you a rat tourniquet, and put on the comments that you heard it from us, and tell them to check our podcast out.
Right. Yeah, that'd be awesome. You
Yeah.
know, so with this sort of thing, I've said this quote before, I believe. We are only as strong as our signal. You know, and you are our metaphorical repeaters. You point us out to people. You are our advertisers.
Right.
You know, and I'm working on right now, and they probably won't be for sale, like I said, until we get bigger. But I'm going to start putting, like, you know, bumper stickers out and just, like, personal things. I'm going to give them to friends, give them to myself, T-shirts and that sort of thing. And if, you know, it gets big enough, we will start selling them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so you could, you know, the signal grows. Because
Yeah.
people just, like, they'll check it out. They're like, oh, these guys are really cool. Or, I mean, God forbid, oh, these guys are idiots.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, which by all means, you know, give us advertising.
Yeah.
You know,
Let us know. Let us know. Whether you like us or don't like us, let us know.
Right, let us know. Give us that feedback. It's really nice to have. Let me go ahead and remove these things from the screen. I really like that we can throw up images like that. Like,
Yeah, those are
that was
cool.
That was really
So
quick.
those are your basic tourniquets. I'm a big fan of them. I think that everybody should have those in their kit along with an Israeli bandage. Those are must-have items. Oh yeah, we're gonna look. So Israeli bandage is a compression-style bandage. That's a good example right there. That one right there. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. It can be put on with one hand really easily. And again, there is instructional videos out there, guys, on YouTube. You buy this stuff. Make sure and check out several of those videos. You know, get a good understanding. And see, the cool thing about these Israeli bandages is they're so cheap. You can buy two of them, one to practice with, and one to keep sealed, because you want to keep these bandages sealed so that way they stay sterile. Okay.
Right.
But you buy two of them because they're like $8 a piece. So buy two of them. One to practice with, you and your buddies and everything can all put in on one or whatever, and then you all have one, and then that way you know how they work, because they do take, they're not right away all like, oh, this is how it works. But if you guys will see up there on the screen, see that banana shaped piece of plastic? So that part right there goes over the top of the wound, and they're that big pad, and you bring it up and then push the bandage through it and then start wrapping around backwards away from it, and you can make it tighter and tighter and tighter, and that banana part pulls down to the right over the writing right there, and that's what makes the pressure. It's a really good bandage. The Israelis, they invented this back, actually, I think in the 60s and 70s. The 6-Day War, they used it.
Really?
Not this type. What they did is they found out, the studies were showing that these Israelis, they've been doing it for years. They had a gunshot wound. They'd take a small stone, and they'd take one wrap with the bandage, and they put the stone on. There was a barrier. Obviously the stone wasn't on the actual wound, and then they would keep wrapping the bandage around the stone, and that would make the pressure. So this is just the modern version of that,
Right.
and that's why it's called the Israeli bandage.
Right.
You can buy these on Amazon cheap. I do recommend the 6-inch. The 4-inch, they're cool, and they're if you're looking specifically for SAWC, that size and weight constraint, then get that. But the 6-inch it covers a lot bigger area. Oh, and that safety pin, guys, things at the top. That's when you get done, you can move it and tuck that in to where it holds it.
Nice. Now that.
So
is
$8
good
Amazon.
advice.
If you have Amazon Prime right now, I believe they're going for $8 a piece, $8 a pop, and you can buy actual package deals from them too, and get like 6 or 7 of them for I forgot what. But if you got like a group of guys that want to go in on it, but they're really cheap insurance to have. If you can only afford to buy one thing right now for medical, I would say Israeli Bandage, because you can use it as a tourniquet in a pinch.
All right. It's a double use.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Very good. Anything else when it comes to the medical things?
Well, we got. Where's my?
Ooh, how about
my
that
paper?
antibiotic you were mentioning?
Not at a, well, yeah, we can do that too. Let me talk about this is a big word, guys. We're gonna learn a big word. Nasopharyngeal airway. I know that's a crazy word. Or NPA. That's another call, NPA. So nasopharic airway. They're this cool little tube, and you can use them to create an airway in somebody who is like, say, they've been shot, or they have, like, say they've been shot in the neck, and part of their esophagus or whatever is collapsing. Well, if it's above, like if it's right at the jawline, you can use this to go past the jawline through the nose and create an airway and save their life. These things are like $4. They're really cheap. They're a great way to do an airway, whether somebody is conscious or unconscious. I have actually, me and a buddy have done this on each other. Feels really weird. It is uncomfortable, but it won't hurt you. And they come in different sizes. If you can look right there, you can tell. So what you want to do, but the most common size is kind of the one in the center there, and that's the one I carry in my kit. But what you want to do is kind of look at the nostril size of somebody, and you can match it up. If you buy the kit, you can do that. But and there are so light. I guess you could carry the whole kit if you wanted to, but I only carry one. And you dip it in KY jelly, and you just slide that sucker down your nose.
Right.
Now you want to make sure to go down the right nostril.
Right.
Because the way it curves in your most people's bone structure and skull structure, it's easiest to get it in that way. If you go the left, from everything I've read, I've never tried the left. We went down the right.
Right.
You got to start at a 90-degree angle, and then as you go in, you turn it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want.
Yeah,
I don't.
pain.
Yeah.
Like, I could just imagine the noise I'd make. I'd be like,
Now you do want to be careful and make sure and put it up against the person's skull, from their nose to their chin, and see how long it is. Some of them come with little rings, some of them don't. But you don't want to push it down too far, or you'll cause their gag reflex, and they can actually throw up.
right.
So you don't want to push it. If they got a really small face, like say it's a young lady, and you got this long tube, you don't want to shove it all the way down, and then she pukes, and then she dies on her own vomit. Don't want that.
Yeah, don't do that. So, I may have just not been listening very clearly. What scenario causes these to be useful?
Okay, so anytime. Oh, and let me kind of do a disclaimer here, guys. In no way am I a medical professional. In no way am I saying that I am or saying that you should use this stuff. This is just what I would do. Okay?
Now, this is your kit.
This is my kit. But I am not a medical professional. If you go and use one of these and somebody dies, not my fault.
Right. Sign here, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So say you have somebody who has a blocked airway. Maybe they've gone into shock and they've swallowed their tongue. Okay? Well, I don't want to try to stick my fingers in there and get their tongue out because they might bite my finger off.
Yeah, no.
So this is a way to get their airway back open to where they can breathe,
okay.
and they don't
That's what you're
smother.
saying. Right. It's a bypass.
Say you've been shot and you've gone into shock.
Okay.
Now, I'm afraid that you might swallow your tongue. So
Right.
I'm going to go ahead and stick that in.
Right.
Because it ain't gonna hurt you. The only time that I've read that this could hurt you guys is, one, if somebody used like a way too huge one on somebody really small.
Yeah.
Or two, if you have a deviated septum. So somebody's busted your nose and I'm pushing it in and I feel it stop, but then I just go ahead and shove it on through. Don't do that.
Right.
Because you could, you could rip something in there and then you'll bleed. You know,
Right.
that could be really bad.
Goes up the wrong way and just poke their brain with it.
Well, it's actually kind of a soft rubber.
Right.
And it's weird. The material is designed to be relatively stiff when you're pushing it in.
Right.
But as your body heats it up, it gets really soft. And so then once it's been in for a while, they can't really feel it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, really cool stuff.
No kidding.
Yeah.
I think I've seen them at hospitals before.
And see, the cool thing with these is if you have a bag like to put over their mouth or
Right.
you can use this with them bagged.
Right.
Because it'll force air right through the nose right there.
Right.
You can also, for mouth to mouth, instead
Right.
of going through their mouth, you can blow through that.
Right. It's just nightmare thoughts. But I mean, to keep me alive, by all means.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
if you're just that sounds sadistic.
I have used it on myself,
Right. Yeah.
or
you said it
my buddy
sounds-
did it on me,
it
and then I did it
sounds-
on him.
Right. Which is cool.
Yeah.
So you get your training in. So
Yeah,
it's like,
exactly.
check this out.
Yeah.
So neat.
Yeah.
I like that. What's in that little bag right there?
So, another thing I say, guys, of course, again, I have a family, so I got little girls. So I just carry a basic kit with me. I got Band-Aids in here. I got burn gel. I always carry burn gel with me. Because that stuff is really good as far as taking away that burn. Because a lot of times with a burn, if you can get that heat out of the burn, it heals a lot faster. I got
too.
simple knuckle Band-Aids in here. I got finger Band-Aids. I got steri strips. I got alcohol swabs.
Right.
I got iodine
Very cool.
swabs.
Very cool.
Also, I got a very basic suture kit.
Okay.
To,
Stitches and stuff.
Yeah. Tip for you guys out there on sutures. There's some videos on it. You want to practice sutures on stuff that feels like real human flesh. Go to the Safeway. Buy you some pig's feet.
There you go.
Make an incision in the pig's foot into the flesh, and that's about as close. That's actually what med students practice with.
Right.
And if you can get there's several different stitches, and I'll look that up online. You can get good at those on a pig's foot. You can do a real human, no problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, after all, we share pretty much the same skin with a pig. Anyway.
Yeah. It's
Skin.
It's very
muscle,
very close.
all
Yeah.
of it's very similar.
Yeah. Pigskin, and then the next best thing, and it actually is good because it's so tender, so it's good. Like say you was wanting to do little kids, bananas. Banana skin works really good too
For
sutures.
no kidding.
Yeah, because and even the feel of bananas is almost like our epidermis. That's why a lot of tattoo artists practice on bananas.
No kidding.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then they have the banana screaming and jumping around because how much it hurts. Well, stitches don't usually hurt, but I mean,
well,
you're usually in shock.
They're
at that point.
gonna hurt because okay, here's the difference between end of the world as we know it and going to the doctor and doing it.
Right.
The doctor, and if you have this ability to have it, that's great, but you got to have a prescription. They have lidocaine that they inject into you before they start suturing. That's why it don't hurt.
Yeah. Okay.
We're not gonna have that.
Yeah. No kidding.
Yeah.
Remember, so I got a blowhole on my face. It's hidden under my glasses, but I actually have a huge scar on my nose.
Oh, okay.
You can kind of notice it here.
Yeah.
That was from, I had a pair of swimming goggles puncture through my face.
Ouch.
I was just playing around in the back of a truck one day, come up, bam. Anyways, urgent care, they come, they just start stitching it up. It's kind of a fun fact. That's when I learned about stitches.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of shock involved with oh, my face is bleeding, and everything. I think that pain, especially in a scenario that we're talking like end of the world, man up. Like there's gonna be a lot of it.
Yeah.
You're gonna step on stuff. You're gonna twist your ankle. There's gonna be a lot of it, and that's not anything I need to say. But there is kind of that bit of training that we were talking about how cool it would be to open up like a school program for soy boys. Like
Sure.
send them through. And I was like, well, isn't that what like boot camp is for? That's kind of exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Or like boys who are disbehaved or undisciplined. And I always kind of thought it was like a failure of a father that would send kids to a boot camp at that rate. But I mean, at that rate, at least he's doing something.
Yeah.
Well,
we've reached a point though where soy boys have had soy boys. So,
right.
I mean, is it really the father's fault if he was never taught either?
True.
So I really think that there's a need for that, and
boomers.
I see myself one of these days maybe starting something like that because I think it's a true need in this nation to teach men how to do real things again, how to work with your hands, how to build things, how to make things, but also bushcraft. There's schools out there that already teach some of that stuff,
Right.
but I think they're more specialized on some of them are like, oh, this is primitive bushcraft, this is this. To me, it's all the same thing. It's if it works, it works.
Right, and I think it is useful. Like even I lack, and I mean I'm not blaming my father, not by any means. There's a lot of times I'm sure he wanted to teach me, but I just wanted to stay home and play video games.
Yeah.
Which I'm gonna very much will up to that because that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Oh, come on, Dad, that's lame. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
That was rare for me, even. There was a lot of work. That's where I learned most of my life skills, was just working with my father.
Sure.
And that's where that's where we're going with. It's like, I'm sure if my father, because he taught me everything I needed to get a good job.
Yeah.
And to be able to work.
Well, and see, here's the thing that you and me were blessed with that is we were able to go with our dads to work.
Right.
That's another thing, and it's not really these guys' fault because these businesses are coming out now. They can't take their sons with them out into the field, out with them working.
Right.
And so these kids are coming up and getting jobs, and they don't even know how to use a pipe wrench.
Right.
So I really think there is that need for this school of just teaching how to do just normal life things.
Right. It's nothing. My phone went off.
Okay.
It's nothing. I don't know. Because there's a point where it's like you can't teach all of them, but it's a good concept. Like I mean, if you could teach a lot of them, you'd already have, a change in the world of
Well, even if you could just
Igloo.
teach some,
Right.
Yeah.
You'd already have a change in the world for probably your favor.
Right now, we are setting at, if something happened, heaven forbid, say the Chinese set an EMP off and our electrical grid went down.
Right.
If our electrical grid went down for a full year, over 70% of the population would be dead.
That's pretty bad.
Yeah.
It's pretty rough.
Yeah.
And standardly thinking, it's like, well, that is just purely insane. Like, what a ridiculous concept. It's like, are we really that bad off that we just die without electricity?
We are.
And that's kind of hard to take in. It's like, it's kind of like when I moved out of, it's like, that moment we have when we move out of our house, And it's like, you go to the shower and you reach for the shampoo bottle, but there's no shampoo because you didn't buy it.
Right.
But it was always there at your old house. Or you go to the fridge and it's empty, and you're like, oh, but I used to have food. And it's that sort of that same thing. Like you were talking about that, you're going to like be looking for something. Oh, what was it? The antibiotics. We were talking about that.
Yeah.
Because I was like, well, penicillin is pretty good, but you said, but it has to be refrigerated.
Yeah, here's
And I
the
was
problem.
like, oh, damn it.
Yeah, here's the problem, folks, with penicillin. And again, you're taking something for granted.
Right.
We have only had refrigeration, since was the late, like, 40s.
Right.
Okay.
Before that was like ice in
Yeah,
a box.
it was ice boxes. That's the
Yeah.
reason why. I'm going to get something out of the ice box. You know, you maybe hear some old-timers still say that. That's because they were used to real boxes that had ice in them.
Yeah, the ice delivery
The
guys.
Iceman came and he delivered a big chunk of ice, and you put it in the bottom. That's what kept your food cold.
Right.
Frigidaire, that's where we get the
How
word
did
fridge.
they freeze things
made-
without freezers?
Exactly.
Wait a minute.
They
How'd they do
didn't.
that? What?
They didn't.
All right.
That's why ice cream back in the day was seasonal.
Holy crap.
Yeah,
Wow,
yeah. Seasonal. Because you had to be wintertime to make ice cream.
No kidding.
Yes. So, where was I going with that?
I'm sorry.
I went down a rabbit trail
Well,
there.
I got
Don.
lost because, like, being the young guy I am, I'm like, how did they make ice without a freezer?
Okay, so ice back then, a lot of times, what they would do is they would dig. They used old mines, like quarries.
Right.
And so way down underground, the earth, it stays kind of a constant temperature.
Right.
And you can get to, like, about freezing
Right.
in there. And so that's where they would actually get ice. They would quarry ice
Okay.
down underground.
Right.
And so then these companies would take these blocks, cut them, put them on wagons, and then later on, like Model Ts and stuff, and then distribute them out. And you had the Iceman come and bring you the
Right.
ice. That's how they had. That's how they got
That's
ice.
freaking crazy.
Yeah.
That's a fun fact, you know, because we never thought about it. You
Yeah.
know, like either it's cold outside and there's ice, or there's freezer. And you know, I never really thought back. Like maybe I'm just, like I said, I'm a stupid millennial at that rate.
But-
I was like, how did they make ice?
But a
Sorry.
lot of this stuff, I mean, not everybody had an ice box either. That's why
Yeah.
so many things were pickled and dried and canned.
Right.
That's how you preserved your food.
Right. Is
And salted.
Yeah.
There was a lot of salted meats.
seasoning, all that.
Yeah. You salted meats, and that's what preserved them.
Mm-hmm.
That's where all this stuff came from, the pickling and all this stuff. Not really because of the flavor. Nowadays we get it because, we think that tastes good or whatever. That's not the reason why they originally did it. They did it to preserve the food so it didn't rot.
As well as the advent of, add water.
Yeah.
That whole concept, that was a huge deal too. It's like, I could keep food for seemingly forever in a little cardboard box and a wrapper. All I have to do to make it start going bad again is add some water to it.
Oh, you're talking about dehydrated?
Dehydrated, you
Yeah.
know, they had dehydrated. I mean, that's the whole concept of jerky, except with jerky, you just eat it the way it is.
Yeah, that's dried, not dehydrated. Well,
Okay.
kind of the same thing, but not.
Right, but I mean, like, isn't like the Salisbury steak like that? I know that's in the game Fallout, but that was a very real thing. It was like, I know Ian Smith in Rhodesia, the president. That was his like favorite food was Salisbury steak, and I was just thinking, like, wasn't that a dehydrated food?
The only Salisbury steak that I know of is from an MRE, and it's not dehydrated. It's
not?
preserved in the bag, but it's not
Okay,
dehydrated.
okay, well, how much I know. Right.
You can make ice cream
Right.
with a dehydrator.
Well, there you go. That's what I'm kind of getting to now. It's like, what's the best method of like nutrients and feeding yourself?
Well, you can getting a dehydrator is the best way, but still a food dehydrator, a real one that actually makes like a Mountain House style meal. Have you ever had Mountain House?
I don't think so.
So, true dehydrated food, what you do is you do add water, but it's got to be boiling water to the bag, and you mix it up, and it rehydrates it. And to where you can eat it.
Mm-hmm.
And they make some really good stuff out there. Check out Mountain House, guys, if you don't know what I'm talking about. They're backpackers meals, and they're real light.
Okay.
But to buy something that'll do that, like say you want to get grandma's stew and you want to dehydrate it to where you can use it later.
Right.
A dehydrator costs about $2,000.
Does it require power to use?
Yes, it does.
Well, then that's
You
kind
can
of out of the bag.
you can use that to hedge against something for the future. While you
that's
have
true.
it. Like right now, while we still have the chance, we can prep.
Mm-hmm.
But you also are gonna want to have canned stuff because later on you're gonna have to can your stuff because that dehydrator ain't gonna work unless you have off the grid power.
And that, that is the ultimate. Like when people think like survival foods, it's always the can.
Yeah.
And I've had experience with cans. Like we had canned an assorted amount of canned stuff that all rotted. We left it in like a closet. It was just a small amount, like we weren't like preserving it or anything.
Yeah.
But it was just some cans left in, like I said, a closet for like 10 years.
Right.
And we came back and like one of the cans actually busted, and it like this acidic property of this can ate through the other cans. There was one can of pineapples.
Oh wow.
Ate through all the other cans.
Right.
And I was like, cans can do that? Because I was like, cans will last forever.
Let me just remember what we got on this rabbit trail
I'm
about.
sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. So again, going back to antibiotics, penicillin. Penicillin is a great antibiotic. Here's the problem with penicillin. It has to be, at least the liquid version of penicillin. You can get it in pill form. But the liquid version of penicillin, like the stuff you can buy from the feed store that you give old Bess when she's got infected bag, has to be refrigerated. If it is not refrigerated, if it gets above room temperature, it's no good. Actually, at room temperature for a certain amount of time, it's no good. It loses its use.
Potency is gone. It's worthless.
Here's your trick, and man, the FDA does not want you to know this. Fish antibiotics are made from amoxicillin. Amoxicillin is a type of antibiotic. It's really good. It's still one of the psyllins, so it's a derivative from penicillin. It's just a little bit different. But it works great on throat infections like
strep.
So I get strep once every other year sometimes. It works great on that. It works great on sinus infections. It works great on ear infections. It does work for wounds, to keep wounds from being infected, like a gunshot wound, as you're healing. And fish antibiotics are relatively cheap. They have gone up a little bit, and I think that's because everybody has started buying them, some for this, like preppers, especially during the Obama administration started doing this. But you can buy right now a bottle of amoxicillin. They've made it harder to find on the internet, too, though, because you got to know what you're looking for. You can buy a bottle of amoxicillin, 50 pills, for about $30, which isn't too bad.
Yeah, that'll last you a year, I'd say.
Yeah, that'll probably get you through 2 bouts of a really bad infection.
Yeah, keep in mind the family and everything else, so you want to stock up.
You would want to have more than one bottle if you can.
Right.
But here's the thing with prepping, guys. I have a lot of people say, well, I just don't know where to start, and I just can't afford it. I just can't do that. Buy 1 extra can of freaking SpaghettiOs when you go to the store.
Just
1 can.
Right.
Every time. Is that 1 can going to do good right now? Probably not. That's not very much. But over a time, over time, it's not bad.
Yeah.
But what you want to make sure and do, you're talking about the ones in your closet?
Right.
Rotate. So, get your SpaghettiOs, get whatever you want to get or whatever, but then every once in a while, eat that and replace it. Buy new. Don't just set it in there and expect it to last forever.
Right.
Unless you have dehydrated foods. Now, the cool thing about dehydrated foods, say you dehydrate it and then you preserve it correctly in what's called a mylar sac. They're a metal-lined sac. And you have them sealed with oxygen absorbers.
Right.
They will last, dehydrated food that way will last 30 years.
That's a lot longer than I would expect to survive in an SHTF. So, good.
Correct. So those are the kinds of food that you can prep and forget. You have it ready, you have it under the bed, or you have it in the closet, or wherever you want to keep it.
Right. And variety is important.
Correct. And I would recommend, folks, and there is a formula out there that you can do. It's actually on a Mormon website, which is kind of funny, because Mormons are all about prepping. I actually have learned a lot of stuff through some of the Mormon websites. But
so they got their bunkers under their Sauron temples.
You want to have a minimum, or this is your first milestone to achieve, I should say. You want to get to where you have a minimum of 3 months of food for you and your family, however big that family is. 3 months, that's a point right there to where the majority of your like really bad things, if something happened,
Right.
that by then a government would start coming back together.
Right.
Some semblance of order would start coming
Right.
back together after 3 months.
And
And 90% of your
Republic, right.
yeah, 90% of your your scenarios.
Right.
Worst case, is like I just said, like if it was an EMP and it was like a whole year, but that's like worst case.
Right.
But if you just get 3 months for your whole family, and that could be dry goods, and there's pre-bought stuff out there too. There's one called Patriot Supply, patriotsupply.com. You can buy buckets, 5-gallon buckets of these already dehydrated meals,
Right.
and like one 5-gallon bucket it's $100. Okay.
Okay.
And that 5-gallon bucket is designed to keep a family of 4 fed for like I think 3 weeks.
Okay. Well, that's still pretty good.
That's pretty good. And see, you maybe could split that up. If you like say you want to do that quarterly, like buy 1 bucket per quarter of the year.
Right.
But because then by the end of the year you would have 4 buckets.
Right.
3, 6, 9. That's 12 weeks.
Right.
So that's a
Several months.
yeah, several months right there.
Right.
So you could do it that way. It is cheaper. Another way you can do it, the cheapest way you can do it is just get your very, 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 very basics like rice and beans
Right.
and oats, and then you can still put that in those Mylar sacks with some stuff called diatomaceous earth.
Oh, really?
Yes, diatomaceous earth is the food grade. You got to make sure and get food grade diatomaceous earth. This stuff is deadly to insects. What it'll do is it gets under their exoskeleton and it just cuts them up. So if there's any bug eggs in that's the reason why you put just a little bit in there. Like that's like a teaspoon is all you need per bag for like a 1 pound bag.
Well, as I understand, too, just kind of a disclaimer, because we've used this as a pesticide, diatomaceous earth.
Yes,
You
you can.
I'm very familiar with it.
You can.
As my father always said, it's like you can drink it.
Yes.
You can eat it.
Yes.
Don't breathe it.
Correct.
Right.
And that's what I was going to say. If you are doing this, I actually had at one time a really good food storage. That all got messed up in like a flood that happened in our backyard, and the shed that I had all my stuff in got totally like waterlogged, and I was kind of afraid. Even though it was sealed, I'm like, So I've started over since then, and I'm nowhere near where I need to be. But that's how we did it, and we just wore face masks whenever we were handling the stuff. But 1 teaspoon for each 1 gallon Mylar sack, and then 2 oxygen absorbers. And then what you do with your Mylar sack is you get this, it's like a big iron looking thing, and you can actually seal the sack. You bend it over and you seal it. And then you got your beans right there and your rice and all that stuff. Now, you might get tired after 3 months only eating beans and rice, but at least you'll be alive.
It's true. Beans and rice are both very good. Rice for your carbohydrate, your sugar, and beans for your protein.
Yeah, what I had was rice, beans, and oats. And then also another tip for you guys: do not, if you want to store sugar don't go bad. Put it in a 5-gallon bucket, like one of those food grade 5-gallon buckets. Seal it. Do not put an oxygen absorber in there, because sugar will have a reaction with an oxygen absorber and actually can make what's the stuff in chicken juice that makes you sick? Salmonella. It can actually make salmonella in the bucket.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, don't do that. So just take you a 5-gallon bucket, fill it full of sugar. And that's what I did I figured I could have that with my oats,
Sorry, I was looking up, there used to be this kind of the internet made a lot of fun of him. He used to sell, his name was Jim Becker. He was a televangelist.
Yeah.
I think he might still be, I'm not really sure, but he sold buckets, as you were saying, prepper buckets, and he sold them for like $300 a pop.
Wow.
Or like pretty exorbitant prices. So the Fiesta Pail.
Ay,
Yeah, a Mexican food bucket.
Okay.
Pretty badass.
Sure. Not for
I was just
$300.
actually looking at this, I was like, I wonder if it was like dehydrated, which would be really cool. That's what I would want.
It would be if it was in the buckets, but yeah, I don't really trust that guy. Look up My Patriot Supply.
Right, I know. Don't trust that guy. It was just a joke at that. Let's see, but Patriot.
Well, I don't want people to start thinking we're
advertising for Jim Packer or whatever.
no, especially if he's being made fun of. We're trying to do something serious here.
Right, Patriot Supply. Let's see, buckets. Okay, travel.
The cool thing also with My Patriot Supply, folks, is you can actually set up a thing with them with your credit or debit card to where they'll automatically bill you how much ever you want a month. Like, say you wanted to set up a plan because you wanted to get a certain amount of food. Well, they will set it up to where they will charge you so much out of your card every month, and they'll just send it to you automatically.
Right. Is this mentioned on the Blitz?
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay. See, because I saw that on Google there. That's cool. So I would trust that. It seems trustable.
Yeah.
Let's see here. My Patriot Supply official. Oh, Google blocked us. Where's that VPN at?
We got our VPN on?
I thought so.
Click on the S.
On the S where?
Down below your bar.
Down here?
Mm-hmm.
Right here?
Yeah.
How funny.
Well, that's weird.
And the proxy and the fucking firewall. Maybe we're just boned. Maybe they just blocked that website. The government.
Maybe they're like listening to us. Don't let them go. Well, guys, we still you can still go out there and do it. You guys can still go on mypatriotsupply.com. Just so you know, and I think Glenn Beck and those guys actually get paid to because they're their sponsors. I don't get a dime from My Patriot Supply.
Right.
Not a dime.
We're right now we're like non-profit.
Yeah.
We don't make a dime from doing.
I do have one bucket I have bought from My Patriot Supply. I got one bucket, but that's all I can afford to do right now. But they're an awesome website. They're American owned. Since they're advertised by Beck, they might be Mormon. I don't know, but I don't care.
I remember one time I was actually doing research on this, like out in the wild, what's good for like a human to like gather, you know? And I found something rather funny. If maybe not like on long term, but the funny thing is, if you could do this for months, and even in the Bible there's a mention of this, eating grass, and this is from Google on www.quora.com. If you were starving to death, could you eat grass to survive?
Oh, wow.
Well, I mean, I know that, like, I was just saying, it's just kind of a funny thing, too. Like, don't take this out of context. Get the buckets, man.
See,
but last resort.
Here's a cool one. I'm looking up their website on my phone right now. Even if you can just afford, guys...
they got that $3,000 a year deal, too.
They got a 72-hour kit, which is a sample pack, for $20. That's their cheapest one they got here. They got a 1 week, and this is all for a family of 4 is what it is.
Really neat.
Yeah, for $40. And then, like I said, and see, here's that magic number right here. Like I said, 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
The 3-month supply, and that's based on a 2,000 calorie per day diet.
Looks like it's on sale.
Is $547. And you think, oh my gosh, $547. Well,
that's 3
think
months.
about how much you guys spend on entertainment every month. Think about how much you spend. So, could you sacrifice just a little bit, every month? And again, that is if you bought it all in one pop. You can set up a plan with them, and they will send you so much per month, whatever you decide. Say it's just like a couple entrees a month. There's different plans you can set up through them. Mm-hmm. You can contact them. You can talk to them about it. These they have a 25-year shelf life, and again, like you said, John, there's variety.
Right, you're not going to be eating the same sludge every day, and
they even have coffee that you can buy. Me as a coffee drinker, That's huge for me.
That's a huge thing for you?
Yeah. I mean, I could go with food for a long time, but I would be really cranky if I didn't have my coffee. I would have a hard time coping.
Freaking addict.
I am, yes. Yeah, we all have our vices.
Yeah, we all do. And I mean, coffee, it's actually, speaking of coffee, it's actually pretty good in nutrient scale. Especially if any of those buckets come with like butter to add to it. Now, I know that sounds weird, but it's actually very good for your body.
Sure.
Keto diet sort of stuff, which I do promote the keto diet. Unrelated, but if you were to do a diet, that's like one of the actual healthiest things you could do. Fat and pork and everything is not unhealthy. Anyways.
Yeah, no, for sure. The last thing I'll touch on this. One more thing, you do need. There's two things that you need to remember with these dehydrated foods. All of these dehydrated foods, all this stuff from My Patriot Supply and these different places, and if it's dehydrated, you have to have a water source.
Right.
You have to have water to reconstitute these. That's why it's called. It's reconstitution, because you're putting moisture back into the food.
Right.
So, if you live in an area where you're afraid, like say the grid goes down and you won't have access to water very much,
right,
this isn't the one for you.
Right. You're going to want to make sure you have a stable water supply. And so that's another question. How long can you say, you have these like 55-gallon drums of water. How long can you trust that water?
I've heard most people's rule of thumb is like say you have like several poly drums that you keep at your house. And you just fill them up with the garden hose from city water. Mm-hmm. Change them every 3 months.
Okay.
They'll probably last 6 months to a year if there's no light. But while you have the ability, and you don't have to just dump them out and waste it. Water your garden with it. Wash something out with it. You can use it the day of you're going to dump it out. Just come up with something with it.
Right.
In the wintertime might be a little different.
Give it to the homeless, I guess. I don't know.
Well, in the wintertime, you can I would just dump it out. Right. But like in the summertime, because most people who prep have a garden.
Right. I mean,
just water your garden with it. Yeah. Just water your garden with it. Then it's not going to waste. And another tip with that, guys, is, because some people say, well, I can't afford buying these poly drums and all this other stuff. Do you have any igloo coolers sitting around that you use for camping? Fill them up with water. They're not taking up any more room full of water than they are anything else. So just fill them up.
That's another thing, too. You said, no light and everything. I think it is important to keep your water supply out of the sun as the best you can.
Yes.
And not just because the sun is going to eat your water. It's because, especially in
algae
polyester,
will grow in it.
Yeah, heat and water is ground for bacteria.
Well, you'll also have BPAs cooking in from the plastic.
Right. So don't. That's like I left a case of water in the back of my truck, and
now it tastes nasty.
Now I'm sad because I know the BPAs. I'm like, ugh, because it's worthless water now. Well,
you don't want to
worthless, but
use it to. If you got flowers at the house or something, dump them on the flowers.
I was like, doggone it. I bought it for myself, and I left it in there for like 3 days. I'm like, it's going to be crap now.
They're good shooting targets now.
There you go.
Yeah.
See, there's always a use for everything in life. And
that's lemonade out of lemons.
It's kind of like the prepper thing. It's like nothing go to waste,
With that last thing said with water, my final tip for you guys out there tonight, because this will be kind of the full package. Again, with water, say you do have a source of water, but maybe it's kind of a questionable source, like it's from a pond or you're getting it out of the Animas or San Juan River. Mm-hmm. So Berkey makes a standalone water filter that it looks like two steel 5-gallon buckets that are on top of each other.
Right.
And it actually will filter out up to I think 2 or 3 microns. So that's really good.
Right.
And it's all gravity fed, so it doesn't take any electricity.
Right.
And the big one will do like 8 people. We'll keep 8 people in water per day.
Right.
You're looking at right around $300 for it though.
Right, and the standard survival squad isn't going to be 8 people.
So they do make smaller ones, yeah.
Right, and even so, with something that will keep 8 people going for a day, that could keep 4 people going for 2 days.
If you can afford it, don't buy the bare minimum to the size of your family,
right?
Or your
go
group.
up, always go up.
Always get bigger than what you think.
Mm-hmm.
I tell people that with gun safes, always buy a bigger gun safe than you think, because you're going to regret it later if you don't.
Right. You're like, darn, I can't fit, And...
Except for me, I don't really even have one of those anymore because I lost all my guns in a boating accident.
Yeah, it sucks, man.
Yeah.
Lost the safe, too.
Yeah. I don't know why I put that out on the boat. It was kind of crazy. People were looking at me like Navajo, like, what are you doing, bro? Am I being detained?
Am I being detained? Leave me alone. Well, we'll probably start wrapping it up.
Yeah.
I'd say it was a good podcast, but I do gotta say, it was a long week for me. I was worked like a rented mule. So I'm pretty tired. Like I said, guys, we are not going to be doing a podcast next Friday, and probably not next weekend. Maybe, what would you say, Saturday, Sunday? You think you'd want to do it? Or?
Maybe we'll have to see.
We'll have to see.
I'll have to see what the boss lady allows me to do.
Right now, the official kind of standing is like we're gonna stand down next weekend.
Yeah.
And we'll just go through that, and that'll be that. But we'll probably hit you up 2 Fridays from now.
Yep, 2 Fridays definitely.
Right, which is fine. That being said, we'll have IT guy back on the 3rd Friday.
Yes, that'll be great.
So that'll be really cool. So thank you guys for listening. I'll go ahead and begin our prayer. Thank you, Lord, for bringing us here tonight in safety. Thank you for giving us, War Spirit with all his wisdom and medical and prepper knowledge. Thank you for just guiding us in your mercy every day. Bless our followers and bless the people around us, Lord, and everyone we come into contact with, and teach, and give us the knowledge we need to really, push your kingdom further, Lord. Thank you, Lord, and just, I call down justice and blessings upon this land. Protect us in all we do. Amen.
Amen.
So that's the end of the podcast tonight. Thank you very much for listening.
God bless.